Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to cross the Øresund once again and head back to Copenhagen in Denmark, one of the best craft beer cities in the world, at least in my opinion. And we're going to have a look at a collaboration beer today brewed between two of the most highly regarded breweries in the city. One of whom is pretty well established, and I've reviewed numerous beers from these guys over the years. I really enjoy their stuff actually. And the other brewery is a relative newcomer to the scene, but I have enjoyed the beers that I've had from these guys as well, and I'm very curious to see how they progress over the next little while. And this is also a kind of sub-style, if you like, that you don't come across too often actually, so that makes it interesting from three perspectives, I guess you could say. So for the home brewery then, we are going to head up to Gørløse, which is home to Untappd, and we're having a look at another beer from Dry Bitter Brewing Company. So this particular beer is called Free Fall Flow. It comes in at 6.8% ABV, and this one is a double dry hopped Rye IPA. It's brewed in collaboration with Slowburn Brewing Company, who are from Fødovre, just out to the kind of westish, southwestish of Copenhagen if I remember correctly, and I've had some really interesting beers from these guys over the years as well. I think this is review number 8 or 9 that I've done involving Dry and Bitter, and I think that it's number 3 or 4 including collaborations that I've done from Slowburn Brewing Company. So yeah, very curious to see how this one turns out. The main reason that I got this beer was because I liked the artwork and the name, and I liked the fact that it was a Rye IPA as well, because you don't see all that many of these, and I'm pretty sure this is the first Rye IPA that I've had from Dry and Bitter Brewing Company, so that makes it quite interesting as well. So very curious to see how this one turns out. Nice to see Dry and Bitter and Slowburn doing a collaboration together. And hopefully this turns out to be another very nice beer actually, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on it as well. So yeah, let's see how we get on with this one then. As always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the breweries involved here before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery websites, the link to my other reviews that I've done, both from Dry and Bitter and from Slowburn Brewing Cooperative. You will see more from both of these breweries at some point in the near future. There's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Danish beers that I've reviewed for you, and that's being added to very regularly because I am so close to Denmark here in Skåne in the south of Sweden, and I love reviewing the Danish beers. They really are great quality, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Dry and Bitter Brewery first off then, since these guys are the home brewery in this case. So Dry and Bitter Brewery were founded back in 2015 by the owners of Fermentoren. This is Søren Parker Wagner and Jay Pollard, and this was basically as a continuation of the Crooked Moon brewing brand that they had previously. So they were also involved in the founding of Untappd, which is a collective brewing space in Gørløse, and they started that up with a few others who also went on to form their own companies, Ulsnedkeren and the guys from Gamma Brewing Company as well. And this was basically the former Stronzo brewery after they went out of business. I never managed to try a beer from Stronzo, unfortunately. But at Untappd, they brew their beers along with Gamma and Ulsnedkeren. Bad Seed, Black Rooster and Ghost Brewing, amongst others, have also brewed their beers here at different points. But I believe at the moment it is just Dry and Bitter, Gamma and Ulsnedkeren who are brewing their beers up there in the Øl Collective. It's supposed to be, you know, a really nice little brewery actually. Hopefully they open up a nice little bar or something like that. It would be cool to see all three of those guys come together and open their own bar somewhere in Copenhagen where you could have all three of the beers on tap. But in addition to the Copenhagen Fermentoren, which isn't too far away from Warpigs, which I would recommend that you check out. They do also have another bar in Aarhus, and both of these Fermentoren bars have beers that are brewed exclusively for them. And today, Dry and Bitter Brewing Company brew around 200,000 litres of beer per year, and they also host their own beer festival, which is called Fermentoren's Flying Circus. And as of October 2020, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced around 110 different beers, and they're also producing some sour beers now as well. So I need to see if I can get a hold of one of those to review for you the next time we do a Dry and Bitter review. But I think most of the beers that I've tried from Dry and Bitter have been IPAs of sorts. I think I've had 1 or 2 Imperial Stouts and dark beers from these guys. I think I've had a black IPA as well, but it would be cool to maybe try a lager or something like that from these guys. And one of the sour beers, I think, as well. I need to keep an eye out for what Dry and Bitter are releasing. But I do try and bring back at least one beer from Dry and Bitter whenever I make it over to Copenhagen. These guys, along with Gamma, Flying Couch, Slowburn, Kaleidoscope, Amar Bryghus, I always try and keep an eye out for the different things that are available over there in Denmark. There's a really, really good beer scene over there in Copenhagen as well as throughout the rest of the country. So if you haven't tried some of the Danish beers already, I highly, highly recommend that you do. They've got some really great stuff actually, and Dry and Bitter for me are one of the best breweries coming out of Copenhagen at the moment. So yeah, make sure you check out their beers, especially the Hey Fem if you can get a hold of that. That was their 5th anniversary double, triple New England IPA that they did. So yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Dry and Bitter Brewing Company for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can of course check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's go on to the away brewery in this case then, Slowburn Brewing Cooperative. So as I mentioned to you already, Slowburn Brewing Cooperative are based in Fedovre to the southwest of Copenhagen, and the company was founded back in 2018 by Amelie Knage, Stefano Ireni and Andrew Keaton. So Amelie is Danish and she worked at Brewed and Kiosk in Copenhagen, which is where this beer was actually bought, and she also started one of the first kombucha breweries in Copenhagen as well, which was called Wildwerk Kombucha. And apparently they were quite popular, but she gradually moved into home brewing beer, and now she assists in the brewing and manages the sales and distribution side of Slowburn Brewing Cooperative as well. So Stefano is the head brewer. He's originally from Milan in Italy and studied biotechnology before going on to work for Birrificio Rurale in the country before moving to Denmark to work for White Labs Yeast Company, and he also worked at a period of time for Fermentoren Beer Bar as well. So I'm guessing that's where the connection between these guys kind of comes into play. Andrew is originally from the US, and he moved over to Copenhagen back in 2010 when the Nordic beer scene was still kind of in its infancy. But he comes from a background in software engineering and development, and he deals with the finance and social media side of the brewery, but he also experiments with the sour beers and the barrel aging side of things as well. But over the last kind of year or so, Slowburn Brewing Cooperative have been kind of getting their name out there a little bit more. They've been distributing their beers a little bit more widely throughout Denmark from what I understand, and they've just been brewing, you know, lots of different things. And as of October 2020, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 30 different kinds of beer. The majority of them are IPAs from what I've seen, and I think so far I've reviewed 2 of them for you on the channel. Actually, I reviewed their, what was it called, the Whale. The name of that beer's gone right out of my head, but I reviewed their West Coast IPA, and then I reviewed the New England Double IPA that they did in collaboration with Bad Seed Brewing Company, and that was very, very nice. I do want to get a hold of a can of their Octo Pills. I did try that one, maybe about, that must be about a year ago or so that I tried that beer now, but the Octo Pills was a very, very nice beer, and I hope that I can get a hold of a can of that at some point to review for you here on the channel, because it was really very nice. I've just never seen one again, but the first time I see that can, I will be buying one to review it for you here on the channel. That's one of the best craft pilsners that I've had over the last little while actually, so would highly recommend that. But Slowburn Brewing Cooperative, generally speaking, I'd say if you pick a style of beer that you like from these guys, you are going to get something you enjoy. I enjoyed the West Coast IPA that I had from these guys, and the one that they did with Bad Seed was also really quite nice as well. That's another very good Danish brewery that I recommend you check out. But yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Slowburn Brewing Cooperative for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, again, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can of course check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about their different beers as well. So yeah, that's all I'll have to tell you about both of the breweries. Let's go on to the actual tasting of this beer itself then. So as you can see, the artwork on this one is really very nice actually. Free Fall Flow. I'm not sure exactly what this is a reference to, but the artwork just kind of, I thought, was quite eye-catching. It looks almost a little bit like nerve cells or something in the middle, but then, you know, a little bit like some kind of weird plant thing on the side. I'm really not sure. But on the back you can see there are the two brewery symbols. So there's Dry and Bitter, and they're Slowburn Brewing Cooperative. It says here, free fall flow, a double dry hop dry IPA. We were very happy to have our good friends from Slowburn come and visit us to brew a modern IPA with a crisp bite of rye. The malty rye adds spiciness and drinkability to a pleasantly full-bodied IPA. Free fall flow is dry hopped with Idaho 7, Galaxy and Simcoe, giving you lychee and pineapple on the nose with a finish of grapefruit and peach. So yeah, that sounds pretty good actually. But like I said, you don't come across too many rye IPAs these days. I've had one or two recently, but yeah, it's a style that has kind of fallen by the wayside, if you like. Everyone's brewing the kind of hazy New Englands these days. The West Coast IPAs are starting to make a comeback to a degree, but I've noticed as well you are starting to get a few more black IPAs. So maybe this is it. Maybe, you know, people have got a little bit tired of the New England IPAs, to be honest, and they are starting to diversify a little bit again. And I'm glad of that, because, you know, if you're reviewing only hazy IPAs, it does get a wee bit boring after a while, to be honest with you. So it is nice to have something a little bit like this, and that was the main reason I got this one, was because it was a rye IPA. I wanted something just a little bit different, and rye IPAs, if they're done right, they can be very, very nice actually. I always remember the, you know, Brewdog for a period of time. They had the Albino Squid Assassin, and their beers hadn't been good for a while, but you know, Albino Squid Assassin was a nice kind of change of pace, and they did that very well. But like I said to you, it's 6.8% ABV, this one, double dry hop rye IPA, 440ml can. I bought this one at Kiosk over in Copenhagen in Denmark. So yeah, let's get this guy out, and we will get on with the tasting then. Very curious to see what this has in store for us. So yeah, it looks as if it might be more of a kind of hazy New England rye IPA. So yeah, this is one of the things I guess we have to talk about in that sense, just because just going by the appearance of this, I was kind of assuming that this might be more of a, I guess you could say, it seems even strange to say it, a bit more of a West Coasty rye IPA. But this, it obviously is more of a New England with rye added to it, if that makes sense, with a more rye focused profile. But yeah, in fairness, you know, we know that both of these breweries are good when it comes to the hazy IPAs, so it's not such a tragedy, I guess we could say, that it is a more New England hazy type IPA, this one. But as you can see, it's poured a lovely kind of quite bright yellow. It's a bit, it looks like a mango juice, to be honest. As I always tell you, when it comes to these kind of New Englandy hazy type IPAs, I always use the fruit juices as a point of reference for them. It's just because they look so much alike that. But we can see there is a bit of a 2/3 finger head of a, you know, I would say it's perfect white. Actually, it doesn't even look creamy. I would say it's perfect white on that. Bubbles are nice and thin, so it is quite a foamy head. 1 or 2 big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of that head there, but overall it does look pretty nice actually. But nothing overly surprising about this one if you consider it as a New England IPA, but I have to admit I was expecting this to be more of a kind of mahogany type colour, you know, a mahogany almost West Coast type rye IPA. So I was surprised to see this one come out as a New England, to be honest with you. But yeah, if we consider it as a New England IPA, there's nothing surprising about it. But when they say rye IPA, you know, I don't know. I mean, for me, a rye IPA, the thing I would expect would be a more mahogany West Coasty type rye IPA. So I don't know, maybe they need to be a bit more clear. Maybe they need to call it a rye New England IPA or something like that. I'm not sure, but maybe that's me just being kind of picky about it. But it certainly looks like a very nice beer. I know these breweries are good when it comes to the New Englands, so I'm quite curious to see how this is different from their other beers. But very nice looking beer. Let's have a closer look at the aroma of this one then and see how we get on. Ooh, that does actually smell very, very nice. And this is one of the things, you know, it's very interesting. Certain hops, was it Simcoe, Idaho 7 and Galaxy they said that was in this? Yeah, Simcoe's a really interesting one because you can put this into black IPAs and it gives you some really nice red fruity characteristics. If you put it into a West Coast IPA, it's a lot more oily, and if you put it into a New England hazy IPA, it's got a really lovely soft kind of passion fruity note to it. So Simcoe, I know, can behave really differently with different malt bases, and I'm curious to see what it does with the rye, because I don't think I've had Simcoe, at least that I've known of. I've not had Simcoe in a rye IPA, and I'm guessing that Idaho 7 and Galaxy would be the same. Galaxy, as we know, Australian hop, really a lot of passion fruit comes out of it, I think about 14% alpha acid. Idaho 7's got those lovely kind of more soft tropical fruit notes to it. So yeah, it's an interesting hop combination one, so you would expect this beer to be very tropically leaning, and you know, you do get that out of this one straight away. So yeah, I mean, it's the fruits that jump out at you right away on this, but let's try and focus on the malty side of the beer first off, because it is a rye IPA, as we said. So yeah, you can smell with this one, it does have a little bit of that kind of farmhousey type vibe to it. You can smell a little bit of woodiness in the base here, you get a little bit of that vegetally herbal kind of thing from the yeast as well, but you do smell a nice little bit of a brown bready note to it, and there is a bit of a bread crusty quality, some nice kind of oaty creaminess as well. I do get a fair bit of oats out of this one. I don't get much in the way of wheat, I have to say, with this beer, but maybe that's because the rye, the sort of spiciness from the rye is coming out. But yeah, there is a nice little bit of a, how do we say, yeah, you do get a nice little bit of a woody backbone to this one. There is a good little bit of a kind of rye, brown bready character in there, and yeah, it's got a wee touch of brown sugar as well. You get a wee bit of a sweet caramel, a little bit of a kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity thing. That's the kind of top layer of the malt base. It smells like underneath that you start to get a bit more of a kind of brown bready rye type quality, as I say, bit of white bread maybe in there as well, and then kind of at the back of the nose you get a little bit more of the kind of woody, herbally, vegetal, yeasty kind of things coming out of the beer. So yeah, that covers the kind of malty and yeasty side of it, I think, fairly well in terms of aroma. But yeah, on the hoppy side of things then, there's a fair little bit of earthiness to this one, which is quite interesting, so I'm wondering what bittering hop they've used in this. But it definitely smells like a Vermont yeast in this beer, one of the New England yeasts, because they give you that sort of almost farmhousey character. Actually, the brewery that you would really want to check out there if you're interested in that would be Alchemist Brewery and the Heady Toppers, and what's the other one called? It's gone right out of my mind now. The other beer that they have has got the name of the other one with the black can has gone right out of my head. But yeah, you do get a little bit of that farmhousey vibe from the yeast in this one. But yeah, hoppy side of things, definitely a little touch of earthiness to this one. Some nice floral aromaticity there. I wouldn't describe it as spicy in this one, I would say it's more aromatic, and you do have a nice little bit of a kind of grassy character to this beer as well. But I really like how the fruity side of this beer comes out as well, actually. So yeah, the fruity side of this beer I think is very, very nice. So yeah, for me, there's a nice little bit of, it's really actually quite a sharp tropical fruit that you get out of this one. They're saying peach on the can there, and I can definitely agree with that. It has got a little bit of that kind of peachy sharpness to it. I think the Idaho 7 really shines in this one for me. Idaho 7's got this really distinctive, almost sharp, juicy kind of quality actually. So you get a bit of a peachy note out of this one for me. You do get some kind of mango-y qualities to the beer as well. I don't get so much of the kind of more pungent passion fruit that I would expect from Galaxy actually. Simcoe, I don't know, sometimes it can be a bit more pungent, sometimes it can be a bit more oily, but I think the Simcoe's coming across as quite soft in this case because of the Idaho 7. For me, it's the Idaho 7 that really takes the lead in this beer, and it gives you a lot of those softer, tropically notes like I was saying. So yeah, for me, definitely a bit of a peachy note coming out of this one. You can smell a bit of an apricot-y quality, papaya in there definitely. What else would we say? Yeah, it almost has a wee bit of a kind of limey note actually, and I find, yeah, sometimes, yeah, there is definitely a little bit of a kind of limey quality coming out of this one, which I quite like. I found you can get that sometimes from Simcoe and from Idaho 7, so for me there is a fair little bit of an almost limey character coming out of this beer, but behind that, yeah, apricots, papayas, maybe a bit of pineapple as well, in fairness. I do get a bit of that juicier, slightly more oily pineapple as well, but then it is peach, so I can definitely get where they're coming from with this one when they say peach. For me it really is actually quite a peachy smelling beer, this. I would have expected a little bit more pungent passion fruit from the Galaxy and the Simcoe in this one, but and I think Idaho 7 is capable of giving you that as well, in fairness. So yeah, this one's a very juicy, tropically leaning IPA in my mind. So yeah, definitely not what I expected in terms of appearance or aroma, but I think it's fair to describe this one as a New England Rye IPA. I think that's probably a fair description of this one, just going from what we've seen of it so far. But without further ado then, let's take a taste of it and see how we get on. This one is called Free Fall Flow, a double dry hopped Rye New England IPA from Dry Bitter Brewing Company in Gørløse and Slowburn Brewing Cooperative in Fedovre, both based in the Copenhagen area on Sjælland in Denmark. Let's get stuck into this one. Slanje, skål. Yeah, I mean, it's another really... This one to me actually reminds me a little bit more of the Slowburn beers than it does of the dry and bitter ones, in fairness. That's quite interesting. This one does seem a little bit more like a... It does just feel a little bit more Slowburn than it does dry and bitter, really. And there's nothing wrong with that. Both of them have really good beers. But what you'll notice about this one straight away is it comes across as a very soft and also kind of smooth smooth New England IPA, so I like that about it, to be honest with you. I do like that about how this beer goes together. Yeah, flavour out of this one is really nice. I mean, this one's a little bit quirky, I think, compared to the other beers that I've had from these guys, but it works really well actually. It works really well. This is the sort of beer... Is this the best one that you're going to find from either of these breweries? I think it's fair to say no. I think that's fair to say. But is it one that's worth trying for something a bit different? Absolutely. It does have something a bit different about it compared to you know, the regular New Englands that you're going to find both from Slowburn and from Dry and Bitter. I can see what they mean. It is more of a kind of bready and sort of brown bready orientated New England actually. So this is definitely like a nice... it's a nice bit of something different. I think it's really fair to say that about this beer. I'm glad that I got this to review. I really am. I do actually quite like the rye leaning IPAs, especially when they've got a bit of orange in them. So this one is a bit different for me because it is a more tropically leaning one actually. But yeah, I like this beer. I really do. I think this is a solid effort from both breweries actually. It does really feel a little bit more Slowburn than Dry and Bitter though, come to think of it. So yeah, I would say that about it. It does feel just a little bit more Slowburn than Dry and Bitter. But yeah. So yeah, where to start with this one then? And I think the more you drink of this beer as well, the more kind of the more oily and juicy it actually gets. But yeah, I like this one. If you get the chance to try this, have a go at it, because it kind of shows you, it really does show you what a more kind of rye orientated malt base can do in a New England IPA. And I like that. And I think in fairness, the other thing I was noticing in the aroma that it is a bit more yeasty leaning, and I think having that rye backbone in there does complement the more kind of farmhousey yeasty qualities that you get out of this one. And it does, in fairness, if you like, you know, if you're talking about the big four New England producers, or at least the big four that we would have heard of in Europe, you know, Alchemist, Hill Farmstead, Trillium, Treehouse. This one is a little bit more like a kind of it is more like a sort of Alchemist beer, this one, whereas a lot of the other Dry and Bitter ones that you would get, you're going to get a mix from Dry and Bitter between the kind of more oaty, treehousey type beers and then the more wheaty, bitey Trillium ones. So this one is just trying to do something a little bit different. Slowburn, I think, I'm trying to remember if Slowburn do put a bit of rye in their New Englands, because this does actually remind me of some of the other beers that I've had from Slowburn in the past. I've tasted a couple of their beers on tap and small things, but I've only reviewed 2 or 3 of them here on the channel. But yeah, these guys, they are very capable, I have to say. They're going to do very well over the next few years, I'm sure. But yeah, this is definitely a more sort of alchemisty type New England for sure. So yeah, let's break down the flavour of this one then. Straight away, with this beer, you can feel a nice little bit of a sort of white bready quality. That blankets the middle of your tongue. What you'll notice is that the further you go into the aftertaste, it does get a little bit more grainy, and that's when you get the sort of rye brown bread kind of coming out of this one, which I do quite like. So that is the middle of your palate and the back third of your palate. You will notice that on the back third of your palate, the graininess is just a little bit more. The bread crusty notes are a little bit thicker. And you do get a little bit, the back third of your palate just feels a little bit thicker actually. The brown bready notes that are there do feel a little bit thicker, and you get a few of the kind of woody and yeasty type qualities sitting in there on the back third of your tongue as well. But as you move forward into the middle third of your tongue and you go down, you do get a little bit more. You can feel that the middle of your tongue is just, it feels a little bit lighter, the breadiness isn't so thick, but then on top of that, if you go towards the kind of front third of your palate, if you like, if you move towards the front half of that middle third of your tongue, you can get a little bit of oaty creaminess out of this one. And yeah, it does actually say, this one, I was wondering if it had wheat in it, and it says it doesn't. So that kind of makes sense actually. I think what they've essentially done with this beer is replace the wheat, because you don't get the kind of bitiness out of this one, because wheat normally gives you a little bit of bitiness, to be honest. It can also smoothen out the beer depending on what type of wheat you use, but yeah, it almost feels that like the sort of white bready notes, the smoothness of the wheat and the bitiness of the wheat has been replaced by a slightly more grainy rye. So it really does show you what you can do with rye. But if you move towards the front half of that middle third of your tongue, like I say, it's got a nice kind of oaty, sort of creamy quality to it as well. In the middle of the palate, you will feel there is a little bit of a kind of almost oily kind of circle, and on the bottom layer you have a little bit of a kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing. You might also pick up a few kind of Werther's Original butter candy type vibes in there as well, but if you go to the very centre of your tongue, it is a kind of straight sweet up kind of sweet caramel, if that makes sense as well. So you've got a nice layer in the middle of your palate, white bready notes, then the more kind of grainy rye brown bready sort of thing. McVitie's digestive biscuit, then a bit of a butter candy, and then a straight kind of sweet up caramel sitting in the very top sort of centre of it, if you like. So yeah, I like how that goes together with this one. The layers that you get there in the middle of the palate are quite nice, and as I say, you get a bit of the yeasty, kind of woody, vegetally complex. There's a wee bit of that sitting there on the back third of the tongue too. So that is quite nice, I have to say. So yeah. But yeah, I think we've covered the malty side of this beer quite well. You will maybe notice one or two, if you go to the front corners of your palate, then just diagonally back, you might just get one or two little woody undertones there as well. But hoppy side of things, back corners of the palate, teeny little bit of earthiness in there. As you move further forward along the sides of the palate, you will get a little bit of a kind of floral aromaticity coming out of the beer. Little tiny bit spicy maybe, but that builds a good bridge between the kind of rye base that the beer has, and as you reach the front corners of the palate, it does have a little bit of aromaticity. Round the front curve of the tongue, it's a little bit lighter and grassy, and then behind the front curve of the palate, that's where you get that nice oily bubble where those juicy fruity esters push their way out of the beer. I think they're saying that it's been dry hopped with these three hops. I'd be curious to know what the in boil hops would be. As I've told you in numerous videos before, if you add the hops at the start of the boil, you know, you do get more kind of bitterness and things out of them, but you know, the later that you add them, you get that trade-off between bitterness and aroma and flavour and stuff like that. So yeah, I'd be curious to know what the in boil hops are in this one, to be honest, because it's got a really nice, it has a bit of an oily character to it as well, which is quite nice. I don't know, maybe a little bit of Columbus or something like that. There maybe is a wee touch of spiciness to this one. Maybe a bit of Cascade as well. There's something that's telling me there might be a bit of Cascade in this. Just, it has a wee touch of an almost red fruity character to it in a sense, and Cascade can give you a really nice edge of that. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's one of the ones in this. In Rye IPAs, Amarillo was always a popular one as well, because it went together quite well with a lot of things, and it gives you a big oily vibe, Amarillo actually. One of my favourite hops back in the day, but it seems to have taken a back seat to Mosaic these days for the orangey flavours. But yeah, on the fruity side of things then, where to start? Yeah, the peachy note that you get with this one, I can definitely get that in this beer as well, but if you go towards the back of that front third of your tongue, You will get a wee bit of the kind of, you do get a wee touch of the darker passion fruit in there. That'll be the Galaxy, the Simcoe, and I guess the Idaho 7 would contribute to that as well. But when you move further forward from that, you actually find that the beer gets a little bit sharper, and it's a little bit more kind of wet, if that makes sense. You do get a little bit of this kind of wet sharpness type vibe to it. And that's where you get the peachy notes from this one. You can feel there is a bit of graininess just sitting under there in that front third of your tongue too, which is quite nice. So yeah, there is a wee bit of that lying in there. But yeah, a little bit, there's a bit of passion fruit in there, a little bit of a kind of peachy sharpness, as I said. You maybe get, there's a wee bit of pineapple to this one. I don't get so much of the kind of, I don't get so much of the kind of papaya, apricot-y type things that I was picking up before. So, yeah, this one is, yeah, I mean, in fairness, you get a few of those in the beginning, but I really think, yeah, this beer is the peach. I can really see what they're saying about the peach with this one. I really can, but I find this one, it does have a wee bit of the darker passion fruit, like I say. It's got the peach, it's got a kind of peachy note in there as well, and you do get one or two little other tropical vibes in this one. I really wonder with this beer, I get a little bit of the kind of almost figgy, I do get a wee bit of a kind of figgy vibe out of this one, almost, yeah. But it's strange for me, because the thing that you really notice on that front third of your palate where you're expecting fruit, some of the rye grains really come out a little bit more, and I wasn't expecting that with this beer. I'm just trying to get the rest of the fruits on that front part of the tongue. It's a little bit difficult to pick out. So yeah, you do get, you know, in fairness, you do get a wee bit of pineapple out of this one, which you kind of would expect from Idaho 7, and I guess Galaxy's going to contribute to that as well. For me, on the very front edge of the tongue, there's a little slight limey quality as well, which is quite interesting. And I have to admit, I've found that with a few beers that have had Simcoe in them. You do get almost a little bit of a limey quality out of Simcoe at some point as well, which is interesting. So yeah, I'd say, yeah, if we go for the fruits then, yeah, slightly darker passion fruit, but at the same time a little bit more oily. Then you get quite a wet, peachy note as you come further forward. You'll notice maybe a few little tropical notes in front of that, but I think pineapple, in fairness, now on reflection I do get a bit of papaya type note out of it. Then as you reach the kind of further, the further forward part of the beer, it's got a little bit of an almost limey character to it as well, which I think is very, very nice. So yeah, the way that everything goes together in this beer, I think, is really nice. It gets a thumbs up from me for sure. I really like how this one does its thing. But yeah, I think it's very, very nicely done. As I said to you, is this the most exciting beer that you're going to find from either of these breweries? I don't think so, but is it a nice one and nicely done and a bit different? Absolutely, it's kind of a quirky beer for both of these breweries to produce. And I would recommend you try this. If you haven't had a more rye-orientated New England IPA, this is an ideal one to go for. It really has that sort of almost alchemist-y type vibe to it. So yeah, certainly have a go with this beer. In terms of the mouthfeel then, I definitely say this is a mid-bodied beer. Yeah, mid-bodied. Carbonation is very smooth for me. The mouthfeel overall does lean a little bit more towards the oily side of things. It does get a little bit drier the further you go into the aftertaste because of the rye grainy backbone that the beer has. Overall, I do find that the beer is quite balanced. You've got a bit of the rye kind of bitterness to it, but you've got a wee touch of... you definitely have a little touch of a kind of creaminess to the beer as well, actually, which I really like. And yeah, the flavour profile, you know, that little bit of oiliness that you get really suits the other things in the beer as well. But on the hoppy side of things, there's a little bit of there is a little touch of earthiness to the beer, as I said, and that adds to the bitterness. I think this is a kind of standard 30-ish IBU beer, though I don't think it's going to blow the head off you in terms of bitterness, and the fruity side of the beer leans a little bit more towards the oily side of things, but there is a wee bit of wetness to that as well. But the malt base, bit of graininess, bit of sweetness, but also kind of smooth if you like. I think it's a really nicely balanced beer, this one, and quite quirky, I think, from what we've come to expect of both of these breweries. So yeah, thumbs up to both Dry and Bitter and Slowburn for this one. I think they have done a very nice job of this beer. So yeah, if you get the chance to try this one, the Free Fall Float, a double dry hop rye IPA, I think this is definitely worth trying. As I say, not the kind of craziest beer you're going to find from either of these breweries, but definitely it's something to try to show you what a rye orientated New England IPA can be actually. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. So yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are, both from Dry and Bitter and from Slowburn Brewing Cooperative. We will return to both of these breweries at some point again in the near future, I'm sure, and they are two of the Copenhagen breweries that I would highly recommend that you check out. So thank you again for watching. Check out my social media, check out Dry and Bitter and Slowburn, and you will be in for a treat with some of the beers that you'll find from these guys. Hopefully I can get the Octopills from Slowburn at some point soon, and no doubt you will see some other review from Dry and Bitter. I always keep an eye out for both of these breweries when I head over to Copenhagen. But yeah, thank you again for watching, and I will catch you guys very soon. The Free Fall Float double dry hop rye IPA, brewed by Dry and Bitter Brewing Company in Gurlosa to the northwest of Copenhagen, in collaboration with Slowburn Brewing Cooperative from Fredovre to the southwest of the city. Slange, skål, cheers.